Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jacob and Jacob podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Pear, joined by my co-host, Jacob Robam, and today he's in Tar Heel Blue because we have a really special guest because we have University of North Carolina head football coach, 2005 BCS national champion, and a college football Hall of Fame inductee, Coach Mack Brown. Coach, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Jacob. Both of you, thanks for having me on. Look forward to our conversation.
Me too.
Pleasure to have you.
So, Coach, I mean, obviously you're a coach, but you have a little bit of an acting career because you made a cameo on one of my all-time favorite shows, Friday Night Lights. So tell us what that experience was like.
It was a lot of fun. They were shooting the show in Austin, Texas, and I knew the producer, and we were doing well at the time. And I remember the Dallas Carter game. I mean, I remember the Friday Night Lights and what it was about. And one of our coaches, Bruce Chambers, was actually an assistant on the Dallas Carter team when Freddie James was the head coach when they played for the state championship. So they actually pitched me as the parent of a high school quarterback that their son moved to receiver, and they were trying to make sure I was happy and all of that. And Kyle Chandler was Coach Tucker, and he didn't know anything about football. So when we started, he said, number one, don't ask me any football questions because I'm going to be in trouble if you do. And I said, I got it. He said, I'm the coach, but I'm not a football guy. I don't know anything about football. And then after we got through, and I was really hard on him about my son and wanting him to play and can't believe you moved him and all that. He said, if your job's really this hard, you got a bad job, man, because this coaching thing's tough. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Chandler was great at his role, and I had no clue that he didn't know about football because if you saw him in the show, he was yelling at his players left and right, calling plays, but I guess he's just a good actor.
He was a good actor, and he's a good person. He's actually a volunteer firefighter, and in a small town really close to Austin. So he's a person that gives back to the community, and he's really a special person.
It's pretty awesome. So let's move off of your acting career and go into your coaching career a little bit. So you took some time off for about 5 years. And you decided to come back and take the job at North Carolina. Why did you decide to take this job?
It was interesting because I got tired after 30 straight years as a head coach, and you don't realize you're tired, but you're worn down a little bit and doing the same stuff for this many years. And we didn't do as well. We won 9 and 8 the last 2 years at Texas. So they were a little upset with me. I was a little tired of them. So it was just time for a change. So I went into TV because I thought this will be good. I'll fish, I'll play golf, I'll do TV. How hard can that be? And I loved it. I had a great time. But what I missed was the relationship with the players. And then I would I would call the games on Friday night, and I missed the games. Just being around coaches, and I'd interview coaches and players on Thursday. And then I'd sit there all day Saturday and look at football. And what I saw is a lot of different things that either reinforced what we were doing, or I'd see people doing things that are bad, and I'd say, that I'd want to help them, and I couldn't because it wasn't my place. But then when we were inducted into the Hall of Fame, they said, take a year to go back and tell people thank you that helped you be inducted. So we had a big party at Texas. We went to Appalachian State. We went to Tulane, and we came back to North Carolina. When we were here, we had so many of the ex-players that showed up, and we just had a blast. And they were all talking about, remember when you said this, remember when you did this, you jumped me here and it helped me. And you came to my dad's funeral and that meant so much. And we walked out that night. My wife, Sally, said, I haven't seen you this excited since you left Texas. So we were getting offered jobs every year, and we just didn't want to move there. We didn't think they could win, or we weren't the right fit. So Sally said, if Hawaii ever comes open, we'll go there because she loves the beach. Well, we weren't going to Hawaii. And then she said, if there's a job comes open in the Bahamas, I said, sweetie, they don't even have football. And she says, well, we'll call it the Bahama Iguanas and we'll start a football team. And she said, but if this one ever comes open, we lived here before, we raised our kids here. Our kids went to school here. This would be a great place to come back. So Coach Fedora is a friend. He's doing well, so we don't want him to be gone. So I figured we wouldn't coach again. And that was the decision we made. And then when Coach Fedora and Bubba split ways, Bubba Cunningham called me. I was leaving the set at Who's In And I just picked Oklahoma as one of the 4 teams, and everybody at Texas was mad at me, of course. You guys live that with your podcast. And I said, people in Texas have been mad at me before, so that's okay. I get it. But Bubba called and said, will you be our coach? And I said, well, what happened to Coach Fedora? And he said, we just parted ways. And I said, Bubba, I've been around too long. I'm not going to interview, and I'm not going to be 1 of 5 and all that stuff. And he said, no, I want you to be the coach. We want you to come now. So I called Sally. She was in Austin. It was 10 o'clock in the morning because it was 11 on the set. And I said, sweetie, you said Hawaii, you said Bahamas, and you said Chapel Hill. Well, Chapel Hill just called and offered us the job. And Jacob, she simply said, let's do this. So the next day, I got home that night at 10. The next day, we're on a plane at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, headed to Chapel Hill and took the job. So that's how quickly it happened. And it's been really, really good for me. People question whether you can communicate at this age with young people. I've learned that there's not such a thing as a generation gap. It's communication gap. And if you can relate to people, you can relate. All these young guys want to be good. They want to play in the NFL. And they want to get their degree, and they want to win all the games. So that's the same thing I want for them. And I'm at a point in my career, we've won enough. I got enough money. I want to help them. So and I don't want to go anywhere else. I got offered some jobs this year, and I wouldn't even talk to them. I'm through. I'm staying here. So it's really been a rewarding 2 years. It's been a lot of fun. And when you get up with a purpose every morning, you've got more energy. They also said, would you have energy? I've had fun. I've enjoyed this. So I've actually got a lot more energy doing this than I even had with TV.
Now you mentioned, you go.
No, you got it.
You mentioned some teams called and offered you jobs. Could you list some of those schools that were potentially interested in you as their head coach?
Jacob, I wouldn't, because it's not fair to them.
Okay.
Because I think I only interviewed for one of them. And it wasn't a fit, and we weren't going to move there. So after the first one, when people would call, we'd just say, no, we're not going to waste your time. And we're not really interested. There was one other one that I was kind of interested in, but Sally wasn't interested in moving. So it wasn't going to work. Mm-hmm. So for us to work, it was going to have to be a place where we wanted to live. And it was going to have to be a place where we could win. And we knew so much about University of North Carolina and Chapel Hill. And we had a wonderful time when we were here. And we kept a house in the mountains of North Carolina that we'd come back to every summer. So we still had a relationship with so many of the top boosters that this has been fun. It's been fun to be around them. It's been, they're more like friends than boosters. So it's, and the vice president of the university, he was my manager when I was here. So, I mean, it's just, there's been so many ties that the transition back has been very easy.
What has it been like being able to sort of help rebuild this North Carolina football program?
Well, it's been fun. I felt really bad when we left. And this was a way to go back and pay the people back that were so good to us when we were here. So we're further along after 2 years than I thought we would be. And I see some more progress coming. We've got a great staff. I love our players. The facilities are improving every day. So there's windows of opportunity in programs all the time. And I really think we have a window of opportunity to be really good here moving forward.
Now, one of your players, I think, is going to be a complete stud in the NFL, Sam Howell. Pretend me and Jacob were GMs. What would you tell us about Sam and his abilities?
Sam knows how to win. He's very confident. There's no moment that's too big for him. I watched my friend Phil Mickelson yesterday going down the stretch for the PGA Championship, and how many people could have hung in there with all that pressure? He just all the way to the end. He locked in. He'd get out. He'd cut up with people. He'd go back and lock in. That's the way Sam is. Sam expected to be a great quarterback. He expected to be the quarterback when he was growing up at North Carolina. He's very accurate. He's got a tremendous deep ball. He's tough. He's smart. He is passionate about learning football. So he's a guy that can take a program like ours, like he will in the NFL, put it on his shoulders and make it work moving forward.
Now, another player I want to ask about is Chaz Surratt, who was a quarterback and switched to linebacker. Tell us about him and why he decided to make that position switch.
Chaz may be the most unique story I've ever seen in college football. He's a 5-star quarterback out of Charlotte. He comes here, it doesn't work. He breaks his wrist. I'm coming in, and he and Coach Fedora had already decided to move him to defense. So I thought he would move to safety, being a quarterback. He wanted to play linebacker, and he's 230. So I get it. He's big. He can run. And I said, why do you want to do this? And he said, I want to be an NFL player. I am not an NFL quarterback. So I think I can play linebacker, and that's what I want to do. And then he started every game for us for 2 years. And he's about to make himself a lot of money because he will get better every day because of the limited amount of reps that he's taken at linebacker. So his future is very bright.
You know, I mean, last season, if he was in the NFL, he could have potentially been the COVID quarterback for a team.
That's true. He can also, we actually, last year when we had some people hurt, we backed him up at quarterback and let him practice some a week or two, just so if Sam got hurt, we'd have somebody ready to go in.
And now another part of your offense last year was running backs Michael Carter and Javonta Williams. You guys were so fortunate to have that duo. What was it like having two players who could complement each other like Michael and Javonta?
It was really good. We had some great combinations when we were here before, whether it was Nathan Means and Randy Jordan or Curtis and Leon Johnson. There were a lot of different players that were really good for us. And we had the same thing at Texas. We had, whether it was Ricky Williams and Hodges Mitchell or Jamal Charles and Selvin Young, there were Cedric Benson. There were just a lot of great players. We lost Cedric a couple of years ago, and it was so hurtful. But he and Jamal Charles and Selvin were all on the team at one time. So we felt like that when you started looking at those two guys, Robert Gillespie was our running back coach last year that went to Alabama. He did a tremendous job of getting them in about the same number of reps, keeping them happy because high-profile celebrity-type players want the ball and they want to touch the ball. But those two guys were really, really good. And in the 2005 national championship, USC had two great ones, Lindell White and Reggie Bush. And these two were compared to those two. And that's when I knew people thought they were really, really good and gave them tremendous respect.
So you mentioned Ricky Williams, and I wanted to bring up that we had Mike Ditka on the podcast about a month and a half ago, and he said Ricky Williams is the best college football player he's ever seen. How would you respond to that comment?
I think he's in that group. There's been a lot of great college football players, and people always ask me, who's the best player I've ever coached? Well, you nearly have to go by position, because when you start looking at Chris Sims and Colt McCoy and Vince Young at quarterback, and you start looking at some of those running backs we just mentioned, all of them are NFL guys, and all of them are tremendous players. So it's hard to say, but Ricky loved to play. He tried to get me to play him at linebacker. He tried to get me to let him return kicks. He tried to get me to let him cover kickoffs. He was the first guy to practice every day and the last guy to leave. So Ricky Williams was a guy that loved to play. And we had an average team when we got to Texas. They were 4-7 the year before. And he completely took that team and put it on his shoulders and ended up winning 9 games and beating Mississippi State in the Cotton Bowl.
Now, another running back who you coached, Jamal Charles, was in that 2005 national championship team. And that team went into the year with such high expectations because of the players you guys had, Vince Young, Michael Huff, Jamal Charles, and many other good players. How did that team deal with the expectations that you were given before the season and ultimately win the championship?
Jacob, they were so good because we'd beaten Michigan the year before in the Rose Bowl, and Vince Young stood out there because the national championship was going to be back in Pasadena. Mm-hmm. And Vince Young said, "We'll be back." And I said, "Vince, what are you doing, man?" He said, "I'm sending a message to this team, coach. This team's coming back." So SC was a clear number 1 the next year. They had won 2 national championships. We were a clear number 2. And we took a Harvey Pinnock saying, old Goff saying that said, "Take dead aim," because we were taking dead aim at USC and Pasadena. And you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to talk about the opener, and you're supposed to talk about the conference championship. But we knew unless we won the national championship, it was not going to be the year that we wanted. because we had it lined up. We had a great team and we had a great opponent. And I remember it mid-season with the Bush push, where Leinart was pushing, or Reggie Bush was pushing Leinart in the end zone, and Notre Dame just about had them beat. I think we played Oklahoma State that day. Our team's in the locker room. They're watching the game. And they are pulling so hard for USC at the end of the game. And I pulled them up and they cheered when USC won. And I said, what's this about? Come on, guys. What's the deal? And they said, we want to play the best team in the country. We want USC to be number one. And we want them to be number one when we play them in Pasadena. So those guys were all over it. Then we beat Ohio State in Columbus, which was a night game. It was great. I think it was 25-22. And then we came back and beat Oklahoma badly. I think it was 45-14, 45-12 maybe in the Cotton Bowl at midseason. And after that, it was clear sailing. And everybody started talking about the matchup between Texas and USC.
How do you, as a coach, help such young players get ready for such a big game like the national championship? How do you keep them focused? How do you sort of get them mentally prepared and also physically prepared in practice?
Jacob, the biggest thing we did is said that our players in practice are as good as anybody you'll play or better on Saturday. So we were full speed. We were best against best. And I said, if you can go against the best player in the country, if you're an offensive tackle going against Brian Orakpo, or you're Justin Blaylock blocking Brian Orakpo, who's going to be any better on Saturday? So just go be yourself. So compete to win at everything you do on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By the time you get to Saturday, it should just be fun.
Now, you mentioned the Bush push earlier, and I have to bring this up. Matt Leinart, the quarterback at USC, said that you guys played in the greatest college football game ever, even though he was a little bit butthurt in that interview. Do you agree with Matt's comments on that?
Yeah, I think it was the best game ever. And I have to brag on Matt. Matt's become a friend since the game, and it was really a hard loss for them because they were supposed to win, and everybody just adored them for 3 years in the media. ESPN adored them, and I laugh at my ESPN cohorts now when I go back and look at some of those videos and said, okay, Herb Street, you picked USC. Man, you had no clue. Coach Corso picked us, so he knows more about it than you do, and I'll just laugh at him and pick with him. But after the game, Matt Leinart and Reggie were quoted as saying that the best team didn't win the game and such. I'm in the locker room. I'm getting ready to talk to the team. There's a knock on the door. One of our managers opens the door, and Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart asked me to come and see them. And I left the team for a moment. I walked over, and they both said, Coach, we didn't get to see you on the field. You got a great team. You're a great champion. And we didn't want to leave tonight without telling you congratulations. So it was a real classy move. And I went immediately back to the team and told them that those two came to the locker room door to say that.
What did that mean to you as a coach, sort of just to see the respect from them?
It meant so much because I had great respect for those two.
Mhm.
And we had actually recruited Reggie. Matt was locked up to USC and he was an LA guy. And, but I thought at that moment, as disappointed as they were, for them to take time to not only come over, but look me up just to tell me congratulations was really a classy move. And I've tried to tell people that every chance I get.
I mean, that's an unbelievable story. And I mean, those two guys have gone on to do great things. Matt's a big guy on TV, and Reggie had a great NFL career. So two classy guys, and all the respect for them in the world for doing that. But
Very
Coach,
much so.
we talked about the BCS national champion, but I have a question for you. The big controversy in college football right now is the college football playoffs. Do you believe that it should be expanded? And if it should, how many teams do you think should be the limit?
Jacob, I absolutely believe it should be expanded. And the reason is that the 4 teams in the playoff take away from all the other bowl games.
I agree.
I think they take away from conference championships. They're taking away from everything. We're starting to talk about who are the final 4 in the first week of the season, second week of the season. So we absolutely need to expand it. We had 4 guys opt out of the Orange Bowl. I never thought I'd see that. I'm seeing high school kids opt out of their senior year in high school now because they don't want to get hurt. I think we'll see more and more college guys opt out. Last year, some did for COVID, but some did because they wanted to go practice for the NFL and the combine, and not play with their teams, which I hate. So, and then nobody opted out of the playoffs. So I think we'll at least see, I'm hearing that they'll propose a 12-team playoff. I really feel like we have to have at least 6 to 8, because I would like to see the champion of the Power 5 conferences get a spot. I would like to see one at large, and I would like to see either the group of 5 go have their own playoff, which I would prefer, or let their highest rated team, like we do now, have that 8th spot, and let them be in the playoff instead of talking about it, because they're not going to be in the playoff the way it is right now, because they don't play a schedule that's tough enough to be rated high enough by rule to get in. So I would like to see it at least 12, at least 8, and I think people may want to go to 12. And I would be good with that. I just think, and incorporate the bowl games, and let the bowl games be part of the playoff. And it'll really change college football completely. We're moving to a model, whether it's name, image, and likeness, or transfer portals like free agency. We're moving to a model that's more like the NFL instead of amateurism anyway. So let's move more like a playoff system like the NFL. And every college program in America has a bigger, better playoff than we do.
Now, do you like the direction that college football is moving more towards likeness and image?
I don't. And there's a number of reasons I don't. Number one, nobody knows what it means. The NCAA threw it at us without any guidelines. So we're all trying to figure out, what does it mean by state? What does it mean by conference? What does it mean from the NCAA body in general? We got no clue. We're all trying to figure out. We're trying to stay ahead of it. We all want what's best for our players. But with name, image, and likeness and money to players, if it's just who's going to be on an advertisement, is that only Sam Howell? Maybe there'll be 3 people on our whole campus. That's not helping young people. That's not a name, image, and likeness for a group. That's helping a guy that's not going to need it. Sam's going to make his money anyway. So what I would say is get video games, get their names involved with them, sell the video games, and have some of that money divided throughout your team at the end. Sell jerseys. Take that jersey money and give it back to the players, a percentage to all the players, because I'd like the 3rd team right guard to get the same amount of money that your quarterback's going to get, if we're being fair by team, because this is amateurism. This is about a team sport. Or give each athlete, when they graduate, $50,000 as a bonus to start their life. And that would be an incentive for them to graduate. Because, Jacob, we're all working really hard right now to help them learn how to brand themselves, help them have better resumes, help them do a better job with Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and all the things that get their name out there and their image out there. And to me, that's more important right now than giving them $100,000 because they're going to spend that anyway. And the ones that are going to get the $100,000 are going to make a lot more than that. So we also need to do a better job across the board in athletics of helping people get interviews, helping the young people get interviews when they graduate. And I think that there are instances like that can help them a whole lot more than putting them on some billboard for $100,000.
Definitely, Coach. I certainly agree with you on that. I think that the idea about equal pay for all the players, especially at the college level, is critical going forward if the NCAA wants to move forward with players being able to profit from things like jerseys and video games and stuff like that. But Coach, before we wrap up today, I just want to ask you one last question. North Carolina football, big season coming up. What are you most looking forward to about this upcoming year?
I'm looking forward to the growth of our team. We're rated in preseason in the top 10.
Mhm.
Are we going to be mature enough to be a top 10 team? I challenged our guys with that last year. We jumped up to number 5 in the country, and we didn't play very well at Florida State. And then we start playing really well again. We didn't play very well against Virginia, and both of those teams played well. And then we play a number 2 Notre Dame, and we get beat down in the fourth quarter. And then we play a Miami, and we play really well. We played as well as we did all year. And then we played, we had some opt-outs, but we played Texas A&M, who's 5th in the country, and we've got a chance with 5 minutes left, but can't finish. So, Jacob, the thing I'm telling them is this team hasn't done anything yet. So we got a really good quarterback. We're inexperienced at tailback and wide receiver because we lost over 4,000 yards of offense. We lost our leading tackler on defense, but we've got a whole defense back from the Orange Bowl. We've got an offensive line back, a quarterback back. So we got a chance to be good, but we've got to work up to the level of our expectation. And will we handle that? We've got, I think there'll be 74 freshmen, sophomores on this team next year. There were only 21 guys before this spring practice, scholarship guys that have been through a spring practice on our team. So as we've upgraded so fast and we've gotten so much publicity, and we've kind of been the darling team here, we're still really young. So we've got some talented older players, but a lot of young players, and those young players have to play like they're older. And that's our responsibility as coaches to get that done.
Well, Coach, thank you so much again. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on, and good luck moving forward. I've heard so many great things about your podcast, and look forward to listening to it in the future.
Thank you,
Thank
Coach.
you. Best of luck to you this upcoming season.
Yeah.
Thanks.